The use of restraints in hospitals, mental institutions, nursing homes, jails, prisons, and so on has been going on for a very long time. Even the chair itself isn't anything novel. It's actually a method of restraint that has existed for hundreds of years, in one form or another. That said, it's only as of the late 1980s that restraint chairs began to garner popularity among the detention centers and correctional facilities within the United States. Ever since then, the restraint chair's presence, particularly in correctional settings, has only continued to grow increasingly more controversial. Restraint chairs may have made the process of restraining unruly detainees more simple for those in charge, but at the same time, it's arguable that we may have just made it easier for inhumane treatment to be passed off as part of the common protocol. The problem is the number of observed injuries and deaths that have resulted from the continued improper use of these chairs. This is the first installment in a short series that looks at the use and inevitable abuse of the restraint chair within the U.S. penal system. The following stories and clips are intended for educational and informative purposes.
Gordon Graham here with today's tip from Lexipol. Today, we're talking about the proper use of the restraint chair. If you're going to use the restraint chair, here's a few tips. Know and follow your department's policy. Use the restraint chair only when it's necessary. And don't use it any longer than absolutely necessary. If you think that an exception should be made, call medical staff. Ensure adequate face-to-face observation is taking place. Monitor the inmate, reassess the situation, provide food and water, and be sure to document everything. Using the restraint chair is very serious business. Make sure your facility has a good policy for restraint chair use, and then follow that policy.
On April 13, 2016, shortly after midnight, cops in St. Paul, Minnesota get called to a Grand Avenue nightclub to investigate the alleged theft of 2 cell phones. In the parking lot of the Wild Onion, police proceed to arrest 24-year-old Terrell Wilson, but the arrest doesn't go smoothly. In spite of Terrell insisting they've got the wrong guy, Ramsey County cops pepper spray him in the face before forcing him into the back of a squad car. En route to Ramsey County Jail, Terrell can be heard already complaining about not being able to breathe.
Why you got my face? Why you got my face? Help me, I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Meanwhile, at the jail, awaiting corrections officers are forewarned that Terrell is being quote-unquote combative. And even though upon arrival their suspect looks utterly defeated, the guards are already prepared and eager to do their worst. As you're about to see, it's this guy, Travis Van de Wiel, who's going to take the lead. And don't let his scrawny, inferior frame fool you.
If you don't get up, I'm gonna drag you.
The beauty of a restraint chair for a bully like Van de Wiel is precisely that it renders his subject entirely incapable of fighting back. Let's watch the clip.
Wilson is on the ground, still handcuffed behind his back, his pants below his knees.
Sit back up on the chair.
The 5 deputies will have their hands full, getting him strapped into a transport chair.
You guys can sit back, his paint lines on.
Wilson is asked repeatedly to sit back in the chair, yet he's handcuffed behind his back. Now, watch Officer Van de Wiel. Van de Wiel knees Wilson twice in the abdomen and then goes back to applying pressure behind Wilson's jaw, a pressure point known as the mandibular angle.
Very nice, sir.
Watch and listen again to Officer Van de Wiel.
You ain't seen excessive force. You followed.
He delivers 4 punches to Wilson's abdomen.
Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. I'm sorry.
Stop fighting.
I will.
You stop fighting, they will stop using force against you.
Next, the deputies will fold him over as Wilson claims he's suffocating.
Stop fighting.
Meanwhile, the deputies are still struggling to strap his legs to the chair.
You can't get any tighter.
By this point, there is blood coming from Wilson's spit guard. He appears to be losing consciousness as he begins to pray.
God will let me go. God will not let me go.
Wilson is taken to a holding cell. From start to finish, it's taken 13 excruciating minutes. And despite his protests, he doesn't receive medical attention. He's left alone in a cell, facing the wall.
When he's cooperative enough, we'll get the nurse checked on too.
To me, this is one of those cases for which the English language literally doesn't have words to accurately describe how sick the behavior of all these officers is. But given that clearly Van de Wiel inflicted the most physical damage, as you might say, let's for now shift our focus onto him. Believe it or not, Van de Wiel is a former U.S. Marine now turned frustrated pussy jail staffer. Around the time of this incident, he was also an assistant coach of the East Ridge High School wrestling team. Interesting how what we know of Van de Wiel's resume just seems to make sense. But anyway, to sum up what came of this case, Terrell subsequently spent 3 weeks in jail following the horrifying events of his tumultuous first night. Once the video got circulating, it left the local community, as well as anyone else who set eyes on the tape, utterly outraged. Even the St. Paul mayor, Melvin Carter, would say that what he saw in that video amounts to, and I quote, torture. In the end, the victim would go on to win a settlement against Ramsey County in the sum of $525,000. But recovering from the emotional wounds that the incident have left on his heart and his mind would continue to be a slow and steady process.
Like, it was so much pain. I've never been through that much pain ever. They wanted me to do things that was impossible. They wanted me to sit on my hands. I was in handcuffs in the back of a chair, pushing my neck fully back, dislocating. It was torture. That's what I felt like.
The former officer Van de Wiel was at the time 46 and had worked for the sheriff's office since 2014. In an incredulous move, he was put on paid administrative leave for 2 years, during which he continued to earn $121,555 per year. In the end, Van de Wiel would subsequently plead guilty to a misdemeanor charge of disorderly conduct. He had also initially been charged with assault for what he did to Terrell Wilson, but that charge was dropped. Even so, Van de Wiel would eventually tender his resignation, a bittersweet finale for the fact that many feel that in spite of losing his job with Ramsey County, the punishment was ultimately just a slap on the wrist. After seeing that video, it's hard not to agree.
Van de Wiel admits the pain compliance methods he was using was the cause of Wilson raising his hips up in his chair. Van de Wiel refused to cooperate with the criminal investigation. The case was plea bargained to disorderly conduct, a misdemeanor. Van de Wiel paid a $150 fine. As for Terrell Wilson, he is still on probation for the cell phones he denies ever stealing. He moved to Spooner, Wisconsin, he says, to get away from the Twin Cities, and an experience so traumatizing, he's vowed never to end up in jail again.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I'm like, no.
We restrain people in the chair at 7 different points on their body. Both shoulders, both arms, both ankles, and the waist. The chair also facilitates evaluating someone's medical condition, if that need be. The chair is built to handle people weighing from 80 to 400 pounds. When you begin the restraint process, make sure that you have the chair located with enough space around for everybody to be able to work and have enough space so nobody gets hurt.
You keep acting like a child, you're going to get strapped in that chair and you're going to stay there.
This is Frankie Taylor, and the way this story turns out may just surprise you. Essentially, on the night of August 10, 2015, the East Point, Michigan police apprehend Frankie Taylor and drag him into jail on charges of DUI. Considering his inebriated state, one might think the officers would cut the guy some slack. But instead of showing Frankie any understanding, jail guards decide instead to punish him. Let's have a look at what unfolds.
He told me that I was going to be able to use the phone, man. Come on, Frank, walk. Oh, man. Frank, there you go.
Officers pick Taylor up and take him to the chair and try to restrain him, threatening to tase him. That's when another officer comes in, puts on gloves, and strikes him repeatedly, knocking him unconscious.
Stop resisting. 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 Stop resisting.
At the end of the day, jail staff decide to take whatever petty excuse they can to strap Mr. Taylor down to a chair and then proceed to pummel him mercilessly. One of the most disgusting aspects of this clip is the way in which one of the guards can be heard repeating the words, "Stop resisting," before pounding the victim again and again.
Stop resisting. Stop resisting. Stop resisting. Stop resisting. Stop resisting.
Most of this happens after Mr. Taylor has already fallen unconscious and is strictly for the benefit of the cameras. They've obviously already ensured his inability to resist by tying and now continuing to keep him held down. In other words, the sadistic officer is hoping that should the legitimacy of this beatdown ever be brought into question, uttering the words "stop resisting" will work to somehow show justification for what's being done. Unfortunately for these officers, this is going to turn out differently than their previous beatdowns, because little do they know, they beat Mr. Taylor so hard that it led to him experiencing permanent loss of vision in one of his eyes. It turned out that Frankie, who had previously suffered from glaucoma and who was 39 years old at the time of his arrest, had an implant in his eye. And when these officers savagely beat him on the night in question, it dislodged said implant, which blinded him permanently. In addition, his face was also fractured and he would continue to be plagued by nightmares long after the incident.
The guy hit me so many times, it made me cry once I seen the tape. And I don't feel like that I was a threat to the officers to the point that they had to hit me until I was unconscious.
Unbelievably enough, a preliminary internal investigation concluded that the officers acted within policy. A lawsuit would be filed against the city of East Point along with several of the officers involved in the incident. This lawsuit alleged a violation of civil rights, pointing out that unlike other inmates, Frankie was repeatedly denied permission to make a phone call. In addition, what we also don't see on the tape is that the officers allegedly mocked and insulted Frankie, calling him short, among other things. It has also been pointed out that the clip we have seen, the same clip shown to the public, is but a mere fraction of an incident that is purported to have lasted over 1 hour. It would appear from my digging that most likely a settlement was reached based on the fact that the case was dismissed in January 2019 with a stipulated order, meaning that both parties agreed to the dismissal. If anybody out there knows any differently, feel free to comment in the section down below. Either way, it's impossible to know the exact terms of the settlement, although here's hoping that the victim was able to feel that some justice was actually done.
So in this case, you don't think this could have been prevented?
No, we wouldn't have known. We wouldn't have known that there was a problem there.
One universal rule that I've heard strongly echoed by not just pretty much every single restraint chair manufacturer out there, but also by all the detention centers who don't refuse comment, is that the restraint chair is never to be used as a form of punishment. According to Safety Restraint Chair Inc., whose motto is keeping people safe humanely, their chair should, quote, never be used as a form of punishment, with emphasis on the word never. They go on to say that the SureGuard safety restraint chair is, I quote, intended to help control combative, self-destructive, or potentially violent detainees, except that doesn't end up being the case a lot of times. The first two videos were prime examples, and now we have another one. This next video is also going to show you a case where a sheriff will be heard blindly sticking up for the totally messed up actions of his deputies, whom apparently in his eyes could never do any wrong. The inmate, or victim in this case, is a young man by the name of Ricky Piland. Ricky is said to have suffered from bipolar disorder, which it's said that he also wasn't being treated properly for. And at the time of this incident, he'd already been incarcerated for over 600 days. In what follows, you'll get to see as Ricky, while strapped into a restraint chair that's rendered him incapable of moving a muscle, gets wheeled into a special shower that guards are aware has been malfunctioning for quite some time.
I need you to turn around and cuff up.
Deputies were trying to move Piland from his cell after he covered the window with toothpaste. They pepper sprayed the cell when he refused to put his hands out for handcuffs. Once he complied, they handcuffed and strapped him to a chair. The sheriff claims Piland first resisted going to a different shower so he could wash off the spray. Tonight, Loudoun County Sheriff Mike Chapman defending his team, saying deputies had no desire to hurt an inmate when he was placed restrained under this extremely hot shower.
No, please! Please, no!
Inmate Richard Piland is now suing the sheriff and the deputy who put him there more than a year since the incident. The $7 million lawsuit says Piland suffered first and second degree burns to his arm after being soaked for 45 seconds. The sheriff claims the mechanical system regulating the water temperature failed, exceeding temperatures past the 110-degree maximum. It automatically stays on for 30 seconds.
Our deputies have no access to turn the water off once it's on.
The day of the incident, a deputy could be heard saying,
I'm not really sure which one's which, so good luck to you.
I really don't know what he meant by that comment.
I don't think you need to be all too intelligent to become a sheriff, but what else could that possibly mean? Of course, when the prison guard made that statement, he was facetiously claiming not to know the difference between the temperature knobs, which of course he very well knew. This much is clear from even the little bit of footage we just saw. It's furthermore been alleged that Ricky wasn't the first one to be tortured by the faulty shower. Rumor has it that other prisoners had previously been made to endure the same punishment before. So again, the guards knew. Piland and his family would end up filing a lawsuit against the sheriff, and in the end they would be granted a rather impressive payout of $7.25 million.
We assume that these things are working properly and functioning properly. In this particular case, it was not.
This video is to demonstrate the SureGuard safety restraint chair. If it's cockeyed at an angle at all, That's going to leave a space where it's loose and perhaps they can get out. Even though the blood vessels, the major blood vessels are down here, if you make it too tight, you can cut off their circulation. This is a 2-part Velcro strap. So first, black on black. Now, that arm is fully restrained. The time will come when it's appropriate to release them. All right, so then the double Velcro elbow strap can come off so that they can get out. The handcuffs, if you need to put them back on, that's up to you. That's your decision, okay? Once that's accomplished, the detainee can stand up.
The story of Lauren Gotthelf made headlines when she decided to sue her local police department following a 2017 arrest gone bad in Boulder County, Colorado. The following footage shows what went down after the young woman was brought into the station for booking. After cops apprehended her for walking her dog off of its leash, and Ms. Gotthelf refused to sign the citation they'd attempted to get her to sign. As you're about to see, Lauren seems to be clearly out of her element once at the station. Nonetheless, do her words constitute proper justification for what jailers eventually decide to do? You be the judge.
No, I just need to get out of here, pay my fine and get in. My dog, they took my dog away and she's a service dog on Pro Street. So, we're gonna have some answers to answer to it. One pair of pants or two? Those are underwear and just one pair of pants.
I'm gonna have you stay there for a while, just to make sure things are fine.
No,
it's not to the back of the judge. You're just gonna sit here for a little bit until they can be working.
Yeah, but that's not right. I mean, I'd rather sit out there and.
Oh, let's just for a minute, and then if you can get your foot out there, we'll get your foot out there. Okay, but right now let's head in this way.
But I'm not sure why I have to be.
Hold on.
Yeah, I understand, but I mean, come on, I was arrested for a dog on Pearl Street. Shouldn't I be sitting out?
Well, listen, if you cooperate in here for a little bit, and we can talk to the sergeant about letting you sit out there, okay?
No. I have a right to go get my dog. I didn't do anything wrong. There's no reason to put me in a situation right here.
Lauren, when the cuffs come off, keep your hands to your sides, please, okay?
Yes, ma'am. So, on the street, the guy with the goatee kept asking me if I wanted to sign the ticket, and he just kept playing games with me back and
She
forth.
can hear you.
So, my point is, he's playing games with me. I'm not going to deal with that.
Go ahead into your room.
I would like to. Can I have a hair tie?
Yeah, I'll get it for you in some minutes out there.
I just want to sit out there and then pay my fine and then go get my dog.
It doesn't work that way, so let me explain to you what's going to happen, okay? Whatever they arrested you for, he has to do his report, okay? And we have to find out exactly what your charges are. So there's nothing we can do here at the jail until we get all that information from the arresting officer. So it's not like everything's going to happen just like this.
I totally understand.
And so we have to wait for that to happen. And clearly, you're a little agitated for the reason for the arrest, okay? And whatever happened out there, that's between you and...
Agitated. I mean, the only thing that I'm upset about is that my dog is in animal control. That's the only thing that I'm agitated.
Well, and I understand that. So we're just going to let you sit here for a minute.
Right, but I don't need to, time out and cool off. That's not the situation. I would like to sit out there. I'd like to sit out there and be fine. I don't want someone trying to take up my time again, just like they did on Pearl Street before I was arrested. It's the same thing. They're just screwing with me, that's all.
Based on your suicide statements, you're going on suicide watch.
I don't have any suicide statements.
You just made one.
You just said, I'll just kill myself, I can hang myself.
Yep. It's not up for argument at this point. So you're either going to go on suicide protocol or you're going to go into the restraint chair. One of the two. A statement? Yes, I can. On a suicidal statement? Yes, I can. Yes, you did.
You had 4 people hear you.
What is our plan?
Yeah, what is your plan?
Are you gonna get into a suicide smock?
You're gonna put me in a smock?
Yes, you have to.
Well, you can put it in yourself.
Put on a smock. Legitimately, I'm telling you. Being a
What the f*** are you guys thinking? You guys are nuts.
Okay.
Asking for a physician?
We're asking.
Take me to the hospital?
You cannot touch me. I did not make any suicide statements. Take me to the hospital.
So it's gonna go one or two ways. You're gonna cooperate with us or you're not.
I said take me to the hospital.
Well, that's not happening right
That's
now.
not a choice. If you believe there's a suicide statement and you're gonna pull a taser out and you're ready to
Yeah, because you're not cooperating.
No, I said take me to a hospital.
But you're not going to a hospital. You're going on suicide protocol here. Cooperate.
If someone was gonna
Are you going to listen to me or not?
do you think that they would
All right, enough. Go face that wall. Face the wall.
Face the wall. Turn around and face it. Put your hands behind your back.
Put your hands behind your back.
we're not playing this game. No way.
Yes, we are.
Ready?
All right. Yes, I am. Put your hands behind your back. Now. Do it now. Do it now.
I have. I've been. That's rude. You don't drag people's hair and you don't shove their face into a bowl.
Sit down.
Anybody got a spit sock? Yeah,
Sit
I got
down.
one in my pocket. Here.
Sit down. Sit down.
Sit down.
Sit down.
Give me the lap out, please.
You worry about that. I'll take care of it.
Sit down. Oh, sit down. Okay, lap belt's good. You gotta tighten it. Sit down. Sit down.
Do you see this? Sit down. Sit down.
Put your leg back. Put your leg
It'll happen again. It'll
Tighten
happen.
the lap belt.
It'll happen again. It'll happen again. Sit down. Stop resisting. Stop resisting.
Wait for this arm to get
Watch
seared.
out. Come here, Kimmy. Watch out, Amber.
I'm not moved. Whoever tased me.
Tighten the lap belt. Shoulders. Get the off me.
It's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. It's going to happen again. You need to cooperate and stop resisting right now.
You're not arm for shoulder.
I'm not doing anything. He's gonna make Nick. You guys feel good? Is that good? Good? Good, everybody? You had someone holding my neck while you're tasing me to sit down?
Sorry.
You understand?
I do.
That
I
I
did.
could not follow your orders and put my ass in the seat while this piece
You
of
have followed orders all
while
day.
this piece of had my neck.
You haven't followed orders.
Lauren alleged that, following her ordeal, she was left in the chair, with her mask still on, for an additional 4 hours. In late 2019, Ms. Gotthelf filed a lawsuit against the Boulder County Sheriff's Office alleging both disability discrimination and excessive force. In the end, Lauren Gotthelf and the department would agree on a settlement that included a payout of $400,000. Now, while you would think that maybe this department had learned a thing or two from getting hit with such a hefty fine, interestingly enough, it was only 2 days after this settlement was reached that Boulder County would find itself in trouble all over again. It said that only hours after Sergeant Chris Mecca of the Boulder County Sheriff's Department was heard complaining to his supervisor about their department's nearly $500,000 payout to Lauren Gotthelf, that he encountered Travis Cole. And it wouldn't be very long after that the sergeant would be found tending his resignation. The date was September 21, 2020. Mr. Cole was initially brought in on a DV charge that would later go on to be dropped. According to Mr. Cole, when he arrived at the jail, the restraint chair was already there, waiting for him in the wings. The detainee would be strapped into the chair, immobilized to the point he couldn't resist if he wanted. And by this point, Sergeant Mecca had already begun his attempts to taunt and provoke the inmate. And he would do this as he held a taser to Travis's skin. Not too surprisingly, the situation escalated from there. In a federal suit subsequently filed by Travis Cole against Boulder County and nearly a dozen jail staffers, Mecca was called out on being adept at carrying out the Boulder County Jail's quote-unquote disturbing custom and practice of aggressive punishment of inmates through restrained tasings. Here's a quick look at what happened to Mr. Cole at the time of his own unfortunate encounter with the officials.
Travis Cole, now age 34, was already in a restraint chair surrounded by 7 deputies when you hear Sergeant Christopher Mecca taunting him.
Want to go? Yeah! You want to go?
Moments later, Sergeant Mecca would use a stun gun to tase Cole in his leg.
I'm strapped down. I'm defenseless. I can't do anything. And to be strapped down like that, it was very degrading.
Travis Cole says he would spend another 4 hours in a restraint chair for no reason. He tells the problem solvers deputies escalated things by bringing out a restraint chair in the first place, when he says he had been compliant up to that point.
Why haven't your staff got into your head that the people that are coming into your jail are human beings? These are not animals. You don't even treat an animal like that.
Interestingly, the only reason any disciplinary action would be taken by Boulder County against Mecca at all is due to the 2 arresting officers that had brought Travis into the jail that evening. Apparently, what the Longmont officers inadvertently were made to watch just after dropping their suspect off inside the garage would not sit well with either of them. Unlike the horde of onlookers at Boulder County Jail, who merely stood idly by while doing nothing, the arresting officers from the Longmont Police Department would end up telling their own supervisors what they had seen, and the information would subsequently make its way to Boulder.
The Boulder County Sheriff Department acknowledges tasing a suspect in restraints violates department policy.
Although he would make the move to quit before he could be fired, a jury would still find the ex-Sergeant Mecca guilty of third-degree assault in December of 2021. Mecca was sentenced to probation but received no time in jail. The story finds us in Colorado yet again. This time we're in Canyon City, at the home of a 52-year-old woman named Carolyn O'Neal. It's one day in May of 2014 when, in passing, a staff member at the New Creations Inn, where Carolyn resides, asks Carolyn how she's doing. But actually, Carolyn hasn't had the best of weeks. She recently found out her mother is dying of cancer, among other things. Probably without a second thought, she remarks, "I had such a great day, I should probably just drive my car off a cliff." That employee, unable to decipher whether Miss O'Neal was being facetious or not, purportedly became concerned. Not wanting to take any chances, he decides to call the police simply to swing by and conduct a welfare check on Carolyn O'Neal. Later on, Carolyn is in her apartment, undressing to take a shower, when the Canyon County police come knocking on her door, demanding to be let inside. And when Carolyn, who is at the moment indisposed, doesn't immediately comply with their orders, the cops decide to force their way in. It's been reported that Carolyn has a history of abuse and a diagnosis of PTSD as well. And so when this happens, it catapults her into a state of panic and terror. While looking around frantically for something with which to cover up, she finds herself simultaneously screaming at the cops to get out of her apartment and leave her alone. Not surprisingly, this perceived act of defiance only aggravates the officers even more. It's said that they next proceed to throw her onto a bed and force her into handcuffs, without even allowing her to first put on some clothes. Then, just like that, they drag her down to the Fremont County Jail, where she's booked on charges of disorderly conduct, believe it or not. Once at the jail, things only get worse for Miss O'Neal. Still naked, a group of guards strap Carolyn into a restraint chair, and this is where she will remain for approximately the next 4 hours. After her ordeal, Carolyn would end up suing the Fremont County Sheriff's Department. Here's how one of her attorneys would describe the inhumane treatment she received at the jail.
They take her to the jail, they put a spit mask over her head, they leave her naked in a restraint chair in the Fremont County Jail. She's very slightly built. She manages to wiggle her right foot free from the restraint. And what does she do? She crosses her legs to prevent the inmates across the way from seeing where they shouldn't be looking. A deputy walks by and sees her peacefully sitting in a restraint chair all by herself in her own cell with her legs crossed and says, "Oh my God, she's gotten her ankle out of the restraint chair." So they assemble a team of deputies to come in and they forcibly uncross her legs and they're saying, "Put your foot down, put your foot down." And she is screaming, "No, get out of here, leave me alone." So they tase her while she's naked in the restraint chair, forcing her foot down, and they re-restrain her. After 4 hours, they take her out of the restraint chair and leave her naked in her cell for another 8 hours.
Later, a consensus would develop that, in May of 2014, Carolyn had been falsely arrested. The charges against Carolyn were dismissed, with a judge pointing out what Carolyn herself had tried saying to the arresting officers all along, and that is that one can't realistically be exhibiting disorderly conduct if one is inside their own home. O'Neal's case against the Sheriff's Department would be tried in federal court, and it was in 2019 that a pretty monumental decision would be handed down.
The best pretrial settlement offer we got was $20,000 2 weeks prior to the commencement of trial. $20,000? Are you kidding? So we took it to trial and the jury came back with a $3 million award.
What's interesting to note about this particular case's outcome is the degree of false faith the defendants had with regard to their own anticipated victory. Despite all the evidence against them, and despite the fact that they had to know that what they did was wrong, from the arrest itself to the way they treated Carolyn once in custody, they still apparently believed that their word alone could secure their victory in court. While a lot more could be said about this story, let us conclude with the acknowledgement of how frighteningly above the law these officials conducted themselves as if to be. Rather than offer up a more reasonable settlement, their preference was to take their chance in court, as if they could win on virtue of being part of law enforcement alone.
Just your client's word against the word of the cops. The cops generally win that battle because the love of cop exists in federal juries. If you have police misconduct on audio or videotape, don't be bashful about taking it to a jury. It's a new day with video evidence coming in that tells the jury the true story.
Hi, this is Mark Mind, and I'm going to demonstrate the emergency restraint chair. We do a lot of jail role playing. These are made in Iowa, and they're probably now found in about every jail and prison in America and a lot of hospitals as well. A lot of prisoners call this the devil's chair. So I'm going to show you how it's used. So since I'm down here, I'll show you. So now, that's what I'm talking about. Now, I can take this handcuff, lock it like that. We could stop right here and now. But of course, now I want to have more fun. I am pulling his thumb and pulling this down before he pulls that out. Did I get you? So he's very secure. Not trying to hit me. Right here that I'm holding is a spit hood. And it's stretchy. And come down, you just pull it down. And
Today's final story takes place in Cleveland, Ohio, inside the Cuyahoga County Jail in March of 2019. The footage we're about to see doesn't have any audio, but luckily, the video is going to tell us all we need to know. From an overhead angle, a CCTV camera records a jail guard, Nicholas Evans, as he wheels an inmate, Terrence Dubose, into a cell bathed in an eerie yellow light. We can see that Dubose, who is said to be mentally ill, has already been strapped snugly into a restraint chair. Next, we observe Evans start to converse with Dubose. Without being able to hear what's being said, the nature of their discussion comes across as casual, almost even lighthearted. Dubose continues to talk to Evans. Whether or not he has any clue as to what's about to happen, we can't tell, but just keep on watching. At one point, Evans is seen staring out into the hallway, and then he even motions towards somebody off screen. Finally, we see the arm of another guard, Timothy Dugan, come into view. After this, Evans, within seconds, turns off his body cam, and then he does this. Evans can be clearly seen as, seemingly out of nowhere, he starts punching the inmate repeatedly in the head. Next, we see Dugan approach, and instead of helping Dubose, he decides he wants to hit him in the head too. Dugan leaves the cell as nonchalantly as he came, while Evans is going to take another moment before he does the same. It may be difficult to see in that video, but together the punches were enough to inflict actual damage on the man. And yet he's left all alone, bleeding and suffering from a concussion, all while he still remains thoroughly immobilized in his chair. Dubose is left behind in the cell, it's said, for approximately 2 hours following the incident. Evans and Dugan both resigned from their positions at the jail following the incident, or rather following word that they had been caught. They would subsequently come to face criminal charges for what they did to Dubose. Here they are in court, along with Terrence Dubose, on the day of their sentencing. And here's a little bit each of the defendants now had to say about their actions.
Dugan and Evans offered their apologies to Dubose before they were sentenced to jail.
He did not deserve to be treated that way. I am truly disappointed and embarrassed by my actions.
I do apologize for my actions. I'm genuinely sorry.
At the end of the day, Nicholas Evans would be sentenced to 9 months in jail. This was not only for his unprovoked assault on the helpless Cuyahoga inmate, but also for the fact that he turned off his body cam right before punching Dubose. By contrast, Timothy Dugan was sentenced to only 10 days' time for his role in the beating. Even though Dugan's sentence especially feels like a bit of a slap on the wrist, at the same time, I somewhat imagine that for a jail bully like Evan or Dugan, any amount of time spent on the other side of the system can't possibly feel too good. Although our footage concludes by showing what appears to be a nurse coming in to take Dubose's vitals, it's said that after this, Dubose was in fact left bleeding and suffering from a concussion, without being given any additional medical treatment. It's deceptively simple cases like this one that really help to illustrate the problem we've been dealing with here all along. Recall that restraint chairs are never supposed to be used as a form of punishment, nor are they supposed to be used to immobilize an inmate for the purpose of inflicting any other types of punishment. This is because not only are these acts as unethical as they are dangerous, but we also need to consider the sheer vulnerability of the person tied to the chair. As far as the jailer is concerned, there should be absolutely no reason to aggress against an inmate. Absolutely none. If an inmate is already restrained, for example, strapped snugly into a restraint chair, then the chair has served its purpose and so has the prison guard. There's no need to go any further. Now that you've rendered an inmate immobile, there's simply no need to go whipping out the bare fists, the pepper spray, the tasers, or, as we've seen unfold in some odd cases, the scalding hot showers, what jails, etc. need to start acknowledging is that anyone that feels there is a need to take it further is not a quote-unquote normal person. They're a person in need of psychological and or emotional help. If, as a jail guard, you're incapable of letting a drunk detainee's verbal attacks just roll off your shoulders, then I'm sorry to state the obvious, but maybe you're just not tough enough to hack it in this type of a work environment where dealing with disorderly inmates is going to come with the territory. The solution to your problem isn't strapping someone into a 7-point restraint contraption and then beating the person unconscious. With that said, as horrifying as some of these clips were to watch, would you believe me that things still could be worse? In our next episode, we'll be taking a look at a handful of the top cases to do with restraint chair-related deaths. And do believe me when I tell you that I think a lot of them will leave you in utter disbelief. If you'd like to be informed as to when the video drops, I do encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Ultimately, this topic is deep and it's very complex. The whole discussion about restraint chairs isn't one that can be had or completed within the duration of 1 or even 2 videos. All I hope in doing this is that it will help open up our eyes to the brutality that still goes on in America's jails and prisons every single day. It's only with open eyes that we may begin to attempt to further the discussion on a subject that, evidently, could use a bit of a reevaluation. With that said, thanks for watching, have fun out there, and stay safe.